Terraces were miraculously inlaid into vertical slopes, perched over the canyon fault. How did they hoist up heavy, carved rocks by the thousands? Site after site is built atop bluffs, which are too steep to be accessible. Many seem to have been literally hurled up as though the monstrous stones flew there. A high carved niche opens out over the abyss, under a ridge shaped like the letter I. The rock was leveled and encrusted with carefully joined stone cubes. Only a daring mountaineer hanging from a rope could possibly reach it. The builder magicians, I tell you, had no sense of the impossible. Everywhere loom buildings that defy the laws of equilibrium and gravity, as well as vertigo. These are a triumph of human daring and of technology which almost smacks of science fiction. And would you believe it? Sometimes the enormous blocks were brought from quarries more than 1,000 miles away. Now, boys and girls, let me point this out. You got rock. Now, these aren't the super big rocks. These are rocks, of 10, be 3, 6, 9, 10 tons. Little rocks, about the size of the rocks that went into the Great Pyramid, the blocks of rock. But they're raised up on mountains, steep mountains, that are up around 10 to 12,000 feet in the Andes Mountains, where the air is so thin that the mules have to stop about every 10 paces to catch their breath. Now, how the hell do you build stuff like that up there in those mountains? It isn't being built by muscle labor. It's being built by some kind of machines and mechanical labor. Now, many are covered with intricate carvings. No man alive could duplicate such carvings with the stone tools that we find. As Hyatt Verrell remarks, it is not a question of skill, patience, and time. It is a human impossibility. I mean, we're just taking a look at it, boys and girls. It's there. Like it or lump it. There's the pictures of it here in the book. And I've seen this, time and time again. It was the Incas and the Aztecs, that built some of these monuments years ago. How'd they do that? Where'd they get that kind of technology? And the thing here that is so ingenious in this book are that these kinds of monuments have been found all over the world, and the genius that this guy, Jonathan Gray, has put together here is that he's rounded up not one or two odd ones like you and I have heard about, reading about it in Reader's Digest, or some odd story. I mean, he put it all together. Antarctica. There are traditions of a legendary rainbow city where the colors of the rainbow are said to have been used in the construction of the buildings and even in the paving of the streets. In Rome, glass-storied theater. Emilio Scararo, S-C-A-U-R-O, Scararo, one of Sulla's generals, had a 3-floored theater built at Rome for 80,000 spectators. The first floor of marble, the second floor of glass, the third of gilded wood. Boys and girls, 80,000 spectators. The big stadiums of baseball and football today hold 50. The big stadiums. Is there an 80,000-seat stadium here in the United States of America? If there is, send me an email and let me know where it's at. Would you? I don't think there are any 80,000-seat stadiums anywhere in the world today. I haven't heard of any. This guy in Rome built an 80,000-seat stadium. Worldwide, the use of concrete, the standard mixture of sand and cement that makes up most building blocks of today, was evidently worldwide. Listen to this. They found it at Yaxuna, Tucoba, Mexico, Cuauhcillo, Mexico, Guatemala, Quito, Ecuador, Cunza, Ecuador, Marchusni, Peru, Santa Cruz, Bolivia, Pompeii, Italy, Tourette-sur-Loup, France, Cohard, France, Crete, Sterveco, Yugoslavia, Egypt, Northwest China, Western Australia, Arkansas in the USA, Tennessee in the USA, and New Mexico in the USA are all sites where we have found ancient monuments or buildings made with cement that we didn't discover and use here in the modern world until the last 2 centuries. Well, obviously the concrete technology was available all over the world, for crying out loud, thousands of years ago. Well, how come we didn't have concrete over the last 1,000 years if it was available to those people 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago? Boys and girls, they had technology years ago. And then we lost sight of it. We went into what we call the Dark Ages. Now, Julius Caesar went into Alexandria and destroyed 1 million volumes in the Alexandria library, and the Romans, have been called the great builders, the great civilization. The Romans were the great destroyers. The Romans destroyed more than they ever built. Civilization and technology was so much greater than when the Romans were here as to defy description. The Romans never discovered anything. They destroyed what they found. And now that's one more example. Let's take a look at another one. The seabed off Bimini, but now raised into a jetty material at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Perfectly drilled 5-pointed star holes with sharply defined tips cut right through 12-foot-long blocks of granite. Other huge 1/2 to 6-inch diameter round holes perfectly drilled through 12-foot thick blocks of rock. Granite, one of the most abrasive stones, wears expensive diamond drill bits down to nothing very quickly. Okay, kids, and they took it off the seabed off Bimini. It's now sitting in the jetty material at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Perfectly drilled 5-pointed star holes with sharply defined tips cut right through 12-foot-long blocks of granite. Another huge 1/2 to 6-inch diameter round holes perfectly drilled through 12-foot thick blocks. Hey kids, we ain't had that technology over the past 100 years. Where'd those people get it thousands of years ago? 200 years, 500 years, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. Where'd it come from? Did it come from savages evolving from monkeys, dragging their hands or knuckles on the ground? Come on, kids, let's grow up and get real. The people over in Borneo who are still living back in the Stone Age are not doing that kind of technology. And you're sitting there saying, well, we men, we're getting smarter and smarter as time goes along. Hell, we can't do that today. Over in Turkey, the boring of holes finer than the thinnest needle in a block of hard stone. Turkey. Over in Turkey. They got holes bored through stone which is finer than the thinnest needle. We can't do that today. Boring into granite rock with drills that turned 500 times faster than modern power drills today. 500 times faster. In Peru, Tibet, Egypt, and the Sudan, outer walls sheeted in gold, silver, polished marble, or sparkling white gypsum. Granite building blocks, smoothly polished like glass. Practically all buildings of antiquity have been stripped of their outer shiny surfaces, so that today we see only the raw stonework. In Syria, Babylon, Mexico, Samaria, plaster-coated surfaces. In Tibet and Babylon, decorated enamel or blue porcelain walls. Enamel, blue porcelain, Tibet and Babylon, today. China, Babylon, Mexico, and Egypt, multicolored surfaces on building exteriors. In Brazil, the use of different colored stones in the approach steps to buildings. Peru, steps polished like glass. Bolivia, colored decorated pillars. Greece and Peru, hydraulic gates opened by means of a complicated jet of water. In Crete, Etruscans in Italy, hydraulic lifts. Essential to the support of highly technological society must have been the use of massive water storage dams of modern strength. The enigma was, vestiges of these appeared not to exist. As I sought for evidence, the question kept emerging. Had river rampages obliterated all traces? Recently, one solution to this mystery fell open in quite a bizarre manner. Arkansas. Carpet rock, an area an acre or so in size, which recently split off the Petite Jean mountainside, has a curved grid of ironwork running all through it that gives it the carpet appearance. Examination, however, shows it to be reinforced concrete with the steel gridwork still intact and little rusted, surprisingly, until you realize that it was sealed from oxidation until splitting off the cliff only recently. The whole cliff, Carpet Rock and Petite Jean, is thus seen to be one vast concrete pour, very, very old. It was the spillway of a vast dam which must have contained the White River and the Arkansas River in one great impounded lake. Now, does this sound like the work of semi-primitive men who had to use stone tools, horses, and vine ropes? No, the early builders obviously had sophisticated techniques. In later times, methods became more basic and building less ambitious. The earlier apparatus fell into disuse, gradually disintegrated, and was ultimately lost to history. That's here in Arkansas. Carpet rock. Features of houses, 2- and 3-story dwellings. In Lebanon, Crete, Tunisia, Arizona, houses of 5 and 6 stories. Pakistan, Babylonia, expert construction in bricks, or expert construction in bricks similar to our own, heated to about 900 degrees. So they weren't just making mud bricks, boys and girls, they were making fired bricks. All right, we've been taking a look at construction techniques in large-scale construction. I'm an old-timey contractor. That caught my eye right away. I see these buildings, monuments. I see concrete being used, cement being used in ancient structures. I see pyramids in China. I see pyramids in Mexico. I see pyramids in Illinois. There are pyramids all over the world.